What's up, YouTube? We'll see whether I post a video or not, but recording anyway, for posterity's sake. This is the typical drive. The system hasn't gotten any real updates as of late. I believe I might have done like 13.2.8 point something before. Right now I'm on the 13.8. Let's see. 13.2.8, and I believe the last time I did it was 13.2.7 or something along those lines. Really the only thing that I would say is that the system seems a little bit more aggressive or impatient. Willing to change lanes, try and get around traffic, sometimes in a way that doesn't necessarily make tons of sense. Not necessarily doing anything that I would call unsafe. It's just more of a less how do you put it? It's just more of an issue, I think, in the way it responds to like the typical behaviors you would expect. So I'll give you an example. Sometimes you historically could indicate that you want to be over one lane to the right, so you click the blinker indicating you want to go over to the lane one time. Sometimes it'll take your feedback, move over into that right lane, and for no reason whatsoever. In other words, there's no traffic in front of you, there's no cars merging or anything like that that would cause the car to want to move back over to the left lane, but it'll still just automatically move back over to the left lane. And so in that respect, I kind of feel like standard mode has started to take on some of the behaviors that you might normally see in hurry mode. That, and then the other behavior change, behavior just being a loose word for like a system change, is that it has a unwillingness at times to even take your input. So apart from me turning off FSD, right, so like I had to be pretty aggressive there racing to a red light, but we could be going down the road, so let's say right up here, and I indicate I want to get over to the right lane. Sometimes it'll, like, the blinker will come on, and I mean, I'm talking like a full shift indicating I want to go right, not just like a little tap to the right to get the blinker on. And it'll blink, clearly indicating that it got my command that I want to get over into the right lane, and it'll just turn it off. So it won't change lanes like I'm asking it to. It'll just outright turn it off, and then I can hit the blinker again, and it'll yet again turn it off and ignore my intention and the direction that I'm giving it to get over. So that's kind of new. It used to not ignore your input, so not ideal to see it making those changes. And we've seen a lot of dot updates recently, and so I don't know if that's one of the things they're trying to address, but it does feel like a bit of a regression lately, as well as a lack of new updates. At this point, I would think we would either expect a pretty big update next time something comes out. I know we're going to be getting the spring update soon. Usually I'm on the front end of many updates to full self-driving, but for whatever reason with the spring updates and that type of thing, it seems like they kind of push those out more to people who aren't actively using full self-driving, and then it eventually makes its way to those with full self-driving. At least that's what I feel like may be happening more frequently than not. So I have not gotten that update yet. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing super significant in that spring update that I'm too concerned with. So not stuck in that mode of eagerly anticipating something at the moment. It's just I'll get it when I get it. What I'd really love to see is some of the features that we've been waiting for quite some time now in terms of adding additional context. I'm hoping that means that the planning, if you will, so the vehicle's planning and how far out in advance it's thinking about things would make a lot more sense. So here's my typical exit that I take on the way to the gym. It's where I have standard issues with it hanging out in this lane instead of getting over. So I'll go ahead and indicate just for the sake of it. And so you can see I've turned on my blinker full on. It's actually ignored it entirely. So it's not even following what I wanted. Now, here at the very last second, like, this behavior is just so odd that it's doing that now. At least it got over this time. It's like 50-50. Sometimes when it decides, oh, I need to get over, I think it realizes that it's so late that it's not safe to do it, and then I completely miss the exit and I have to take the next one down. In that particular one, it apparently felt like it could safely make the maneuver and moved us over, but just a really crazy behavioral issue that started with version 13. I don't even remember which specific rollout, but yeah, it was kind of one of those regressive behaviors that still hasn't been addressed with any of the point updates or things that we've gotten. So but at least you got an indication of what I'm talking about in terms of like how I like full on put the blinker all the way up indicating to get over to the right lane. It registered that I want to get over to the right lane, and it completely ignored my input and actually turned it off and stayed in the lane. So just an odd behavior. So I'll definitely get this one posted, just because I knew I wanted to get that documented and kind of share it. And so at least since I was running the camera, I knew I could capture it and get it out there. Haven't really had much need to run the camera too much lately, just because we haven't gotten very many updates. So I will say one of the point updates that potentially is a fix that we might be able to demo is it's more of a navigation fix. Is that I think I've shared how sometimes it makes some very weird decisions about like where to turn in, like the navigation saying one thing but it does another thing in terms of where to pull into a parking lot, and so it just happens to do that a lot with the gym that I go to. Sometimes it'll take the first entrance in, sometimes it'll take the second entrance in. It should always take the first. Like, it's just the most logical of all the ways to do it, since the gym is actually closest to the first entrance into the parking lot. And there's never really any safety issue or any problem with being able to make the right-hand turn. Like, nothing's blocking it, etc. It's just an odd thing. So, but spring is sprung in Missouri. I am looking forward to hopefully seeing them do some road repairs this year, because I will tell you, they've done a lot of patching over the last couple of years, as you can see if you look over the road in front of us. You probably even hear it just in terms of the way the car interacts with all the bumps. But you know, they come through and they patch and they patch and they patch and they patch, and eventually it's like the road is just nothing but a bunch of patches. It's time. It'd be awesome if there was like a civil engineer that wanted to explain why we do so much with concrete in the Midwest, when it seems like concrete just requires so much maintenance. And I don't just mean like partial maintenance to clean up the road, but like fill these gaps. But then it seems like every couple of years they're having to go through and cut up sections of the road and put down new concrete to replace the old concrete that's gone bad. And I suspect all due to the freeze cycles, you know, water getting trapped in the concrete when it freezes and then expands, and then it cracks the concrete and causes it to break up. And then you get the snow plows and stuff coming through, and they break it up even further and make it even worse. And there you go. So we'll see how this happens. I don't know whether this car in front of us, well, they're actually reversing just as I'm speaking, but they were sticking out into the road and I was very curious to see how the car would handle having their front end sticking out into the road. So we'll see. As of right now, it looks like they've reversed enough that it's not going to be an issue. So. I will say though, I mean, I still do the vast majority of my driving. I'm full self-driving. I'd say 90% of the time I'm letting the car drive me around, and 90% of the time I'm not having to interfere or mess with the car. It might do some silly things that annoy me and kind of frustrate me just because I think it's an odd behavior, but at the end of the day, it'll get me from point A to point B and do almost all the work and do it in a safe way, safely enough that I'm comfortable staying engaged. But I will say, like, I am very aware of FSD's limitations. I know there are people who sometimes will jump online and be like, oh, it can do merges, and I'm like, no, full self-driving is not 100% on merging. A well-marked merge, something along those lines, yeah, absolutely, it'll do great. But even if you look at the very beginning of this video, and you look at how it manages itself when the lanes merge as you're joining the highway, basically the road pushes it to merge. It never indicates that it's getting over. It never does anything like that. And you'll notice when you hit certain merges that the car will do what you would expect it to do in terms of put on a blinker, move over, etc. So I think that to me is just kind of like that reinforcement that if it does it one way in certain situations, it should be doing it that same way in all situations. Here's the first entrance, and this is where I was saying this is a fix. It used to go down, even if the navigation sometimes was indicating for it to turn this way, and then vice versa. So a nice little fix. Nice to see it kind of come through with that and kind of correct that. I'm going to take over here, but yeah. So I mean, just getting back to the merges, you know, if the training is such that it's like, okay, if you're hitting like an area where you have to merge and you're going to turn on your blinker to indicate that you need to get over a lane, that's the behavior you should expect every time you're getting into a situation where the vehicle has to merge. And it just does not do that in certain situations. And maybe they're very uncommon, and it's just very common for me because I live on a road where it has one of those oddball merges. So anyway, glad you guys would come for a ride. Hope you enjoyed the short video, but enough to kind of see some of the interesting and odd behaviors that can kick in with full self-driving.